Our sector's in a tough spot. Trust in advertising is at an all-time low. In the UK, it sits at about 25%. And we know that 25% of UK adults are deploying ad blocking software. So if you reflect upon that for a moment, only 1 in 4 people trust our work, and 1 in 4 are going to the extent of trying to block it. Now, to understand how we arrived at this sort of troublesome junction, you have to go back to a moment in time before this erosion of trust. So if you look broadly at the 90s, where trust sat at about 50%, double what it is today, so 1 in 2 people trusting our work, the media landscape was very simple. Your choices for investment were simple, with channels with very broad reach. And secondly, it was a one-way street of communication. We'd put our campaign strategy together, we would formulate our creativity, make our investment decisions around channels, and we would project our message out onto the marketplace, our audience, and they wouldn't return any message themselves. It was a one-way street of communication. In essence, we had an awful lot of control over what our brands meant to people. But if you then look at the last 12 years or so, and the event of technological changes, that's changed everything. So thanks to digital media, we now are in an age of proliferation of media choice. And this glut of inventory, of opportunities to buy advertising, within digital especially, has meant that it's cheap. We also, through digital marketing, have afforded marketers the ability to account for their results in real time. So it's no surprise, is it, if you think about it, that this heady cocktail of cheap and accountable has proved really seductive to marketers that are operating in uncertain economic times under the umbrella of the last decade, which is probably defined by the credit crunch. So the result of that is that we've miseducated a generation of marketers. They have relentlessly optimized campaigns around a single metric, funneling investment towards optimizing a cost per lead, a cost per sale, a cost per acquisition. And that's where we've created the impact. That's where we're now counting the cost. In amongst the Advertising Association's recent findings into trust in advertising, some of the kinder notes talked about advertising as irrelevant, obtrusive and bombarding. That's the cost. That's the cost of what's played out over the past decade. The other major change that we can identify between the marketplace we're now addressing and what it was like maybe in the 90s is that it's a two-way street. Thanks to social media, regardless of the size of your budget, your audience now have a bigger voice than you. And what's more, they trust each other more than they trust our companies. So in the 90s, your audience was a passive bystander, and today they're an active participant. And what they're participating in is an experience of our brand. As marketers, we no longer can exercise the control we once had over what our brands mean to people. A business that's, I think, always understood this more than most is the world's most valuable clothing brand. Back in 1966, one of the Nike co-founders self-published a book titled Jogger and kick-started a new culture. And today I think Nike continues to understand it's built upon more than simply trainers. It's built upon immersive athletic experiences, moving beyond clothing, beyond wearables, into communities like Nike Plus. And a brand now is cultivated by an overall experience, and this experience is created by the sum of interactions a person has with it. And that translates itself as an emotion that brand goes on to own in a human's mind. So our role today as marketers, knowing that we can't exercise the control that we once had, is to make sure that our work contributes towards the emotion that we want our brand to own in the minds of our customer.